Hello friends, welcome back to the channel. Now today we are going to be doing my May and June reading wrap up. In both of those months, I read 8 books in total, 4 in May and 4 in June. I know, pretty great honestly. But the reason why I decided to not have them in their own separate videos is because I figured it would just not do as well, honestly, in my opinion. And I'd rather talk about these 8 books together than as 4 of them in one video, 4 of them in another one, because my reading for the different months is usually kind of all over the place. So it just kind of depends on what I'm feeling each month, essentially, But like I said, in total, I read 8 books within the months of May and June. I didn't really do much of the calculations of stats beforehand, but what I can see on my phone currently is I have read 3 romances, 1 nonfiction, 1 historical fiction, 1 contemporary fiction, I think is what it's labeled under. I've also seen mystery type of vibes and thrillers for this vibe as well too, and then 1 fantasy novel as well, essentially. But we're just going to start out with the first book that I finished in May, and then obviously starting with the first book that I read in May, ending with the last book that I read in June. So let's get started. And some of these I don't have the physical copies of because either I didn't get the physical copies or just whatever, honestly. And I was also planning on telling you guys what mode I read the books in mostly, and kind of talking about which ones I think that y'all should read, essentially, But the first book we have is James by Percival Everett. I don't know if y'all have been on the internet as of recently, or especially within the last 6 months, but James was literally everywhere on Book Talk, honestly. If you guys don't know what James is, it is basically a retelling of The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn by Mark Twain, I believe. And in this book, you follow Jim, who is the slave in The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. You follow it from his point of view, essentially. And like I said, it's a retelling of The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, but from Jim's point of view. I gave this book a 3-star. I really don't remember much of the core stuff that happens, but maybe that's just because I didn't read the original book. Honestly, I did not read the original book of The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, so I probably didn't get as much of an experience like some people did, because I have come across nothing but just 5 stars, 4 stars, and I was just sitting here with my 3 stars being oh, okay. And I tell you what, I think it was just the book, because at the time I was kind of going through a little mini reading slump. So I mostly listened to the audiobook and such. And even with the audiobook, honestly, I was just yeah, no, I don't really like the book that much, honestly, Yeah, I just don't really remember much, honestly, with story-wise. The only thing that I remember, because I did a little bit of immersive reading with this book, but it wasn't much, to say the least. The only thing I can kind of really remember, honestly, when it comes to this book is specifically seeing the slave language next to the English language, because there's a prominent thing in history specifically where slaves, they learned English from white folk and such, and they would always kind of talk in this broken English type of vibe. But in reality, when they were with their fellow slaves, they talked normal English like white people did, essentially. But they put on this slave talk, essentially, to make white people think that oh, these people are incompetent and such. So it was really interesting to kind of see the slave talk written out as it is, which, I mean, it makes sense, honestly. But other than that, I don't remember much about this book. I'm digging in my brain, and I don't remember a single thing when it comes to story-wise, honestly. It's a 3-star. Like I said, I would give it a yes recommendation if you have read The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, but also at the same time, if you're just going to read it as a standalone and you don't really care about the first book, which is The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, then I would just say maybe. I would just say maybe, personally. I did not love it, but that doesn't mean that you might not love it, honestly. We all have our different tastes, but this is just my personal taste. It was very lackluster for me. But I did get off a 25 books to read in 2025 check mark, honestly, so I was happy about that, to say the least. Okay, then the next book I do not have because I read it in the audiobook form again. That was Same Soul, Many Bodies. I binged this in like a day or so, honestly, because it was a really, really quick audiobook. But Same Soul, Many Bodies is by Brian Weiss, I believe is how you pronounce his last name. And if you guys have heard of his name before, he also wrote Many Lives, Many Masters, which was my first introduction to him. And I really liked that book as well, too. You guys know I don't rate nonfiction as well, too. I don't really think, honestly, that I should, to be honest with you, because one, it's someone else's story, and it feels kind of weird, honestly, to put a star rating on somebody else's tale. I used to do it a lot, but then I was just like, I just had like this revelation of being like, I don't know, honestly. It feels weird putting a star rating, like slapping a star on someone else's story, you know? But basically, Same Soul, Many Bodies kind of follows the same type of concept with Many Lives, Many Masters, essentially, but it takes it on a different tale. So in order to kind of like talk about this one, I need to talk a little bit about Many Lives, Many Masters. Many Lives, Many Masters is basically about Brian's journey as a new and upcoming psychotherapist. He's very well known for this like psychotherapy of hypnotization. He likes to hypnotize his patients and kind of takes them into a calming state and basically putting them in a subconscious like state where their subconscious is the one that's kind of talking, and they're going through like their past trauma and trying to figure out what exactly is going on. And it follows him and this patient named Catherine. I think it's either Katie or Catherine. I'm not too sure off the top of my head. It's been like a year or so since I've read the book, so give or take, honestly. But basically, it follows her, and she comes in with really, really bad anxiety and like that type of stuff. So she enlists his help, and they're doing their sessions. And then one day, instead of going into the past in her present life, she goes into the past of one of her past lives, essentially. So she's taken herself to this past life, and she does this thing where she kind of goes back into past lives and kind of thinks about that type of trauma and how it affects her in her present life, which is something that the psychology field had not seen before, honestly. And he talks about it in this book. He's like, I don't know, like if this is a good thing to talk about, honestly, but it really is a good thing to talk about because it talks about reincarnation and how how Catherine was able to heal from doing this and such like that. And then it goes into where she is not talking during the sessions, but these things called the masters, which are kind of like these god-like being type of things where they are the ones that kind of not control the narrative, but they kind of talk about specifically how different people are meant to be on different journeys in their lives, essentially. And it's a really, really interesting concept, honestly. I'm not going to talk too much about it because, you have to learn it as you go, essentially. But it follows Catherine. You get to meet these guys called the masters and such, like these godlike beings, that type of stuff. And with regression therapy and how much it has really, really helped with people who have sustained a lot of like major trauma, honestly, and how it's shown that working with your past lives and kind of talking about your past lives is good for your present life and such. Now, Same Soul, Many Bodies kind of takes that as well too, but elevates it into this thing called progression therapy. So in Many Lives, Many Masters, they tried to, like Brian tried to take Catherine into the future, but she wouldn't go. Like she wasn't strong enough to be able to see any future lives of hers and such like that. And then Same Soul, Many Bodies basically follows a bunch of different patients that he's taken under his wing, and of course takes him back to past lives and such. But then in turn, when confronting these different things and such like that, he takes them into future lives. So it kind of follows the ability to be able to choose our futures. Like if one person chose this route, another person chose that route, or the person chose a different route or a different route, they could see how that could impact their potential future lives, essentially, or like farther in the future in their present lives currently, if that makes any sense, And I think that one was just so interesting, honestly. And I would say if you do want to read Same Soul, Many Bodies, I would recommend reading Many Lives, Many Masters before doing that. But like hands down, like two of some of my favorite like nonfiction books that I have read in my lifetime, honestly. And I would 100% recommend it, honestly. But like I said, if you are going to read Same Soul, Many Bodies, I would suggest that you read Many Lives, Many Masters beforehand as well. All right, the third book that I finished and read in May was Cross My Heart by Esha Patel. Now, I personally know the author, so this book technically came out in later in the month of May, and I got the e-arc of this book, and I was like, okay, I need to read it before it actually comes out and such. And it is just like this cute little fluffy college romance and such, like college sports romance specifically. They were childhood best friends. It's lacrosse, and it's just such a cute little like thing, honestly. Like it's almost kind of like a reverse Grumpy Sunshine in the way, honestly. Like the girl is grumpy while the guy is like not grumpy. I gave it a 4.5 actually. Sorry about that. But I gave it a 4.5. I really, really enjoyed the characters. I enjoyed the build up, honestly. I will say, because I do like to keep it fair, the beginning was a little bit on the slower side for me personally. But then once we got past a certain point, I was in the story. Like I was in the story. It basically follows this girl named May. She is kind of struggling a little bit with her lacrosse like college team and such. And then she finds out that her childhood best friend now like enemy kind of rivals, honestly. I wouldn't classify them as enemies to lovers personally. I would classify them as like rivals, and of course childhood best friends to strangers to friends to lovers again, I would say, to be honest. Basically there's a little bit of a fake dating trope as well too. And fake dating, if it's done right, then I think it's great. The way that they did this one was completely done right, honestly. The way that Esha like made the fake dating seem like it was so real to the outside as well, it was just amazing. It was amazing, honestly. Colt, CJ is just a little bit of a cutie pie. He gives a lot of golden retriever vibes, honestly, which I personally love. And yeah, I really, really liked reading this book, honestly. It was so fun. It was so cute, honestly. It's just so cute. Like, I don't know what else to say to that, to be honest with you. I really don't. It was very, very cute. It is out, I believe it's out in paperback in the UK, and then you can get it on the Kindle version in the US, and I think other parts, I think in Canada as well too. But yeah, 100% go check her out. She is a good friend of mine and such, and just, yeah, go check her out and go support her, honestly. She writes really good romances, honestly. Just, yeah, and I would recommend it as well too, you know? Okay, and then the last book that I read in May that so many people have been talking about is Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry. Now, I gave this a 3.75. I gave this a 3.75 and I liked it. I genuinely liked parts of it, honestly. There was a part where I couldn't give it quite a 4-star. And I think it's because I kind of went into it with the mentality of like, this is not just purely a romance. It is 2 different stories and more of a literary fiction vibe to it than anything else, essentially, you know? And so I kind of went into that with that notion. So I think that's what kind of saved the rating for me in the beginning, honestly. Because if you guys don't know, you follow these writers who are competing to tell Margaret Ives' stories, specifically Alice and Hayden, and they are basically just kind of competing to tell her story. You get their story, you get Margaret's story as well too. And I will say, the people who are kind of comparing it to Evelyn Hugo, pretty good comparison, but like, it's a pretty good comparison with Margaret's side. But when it comes to the romance of Hayden and Alice, not really giving Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, but like Margaret Ives with that. I've also heard a lot of people saying that Margaret Ives kind of almost seems like she's related to like The Last Great American Dynasty by Taylor Swift, like that song and such, which I completely get, honestly. But yeah, you follow those 2 separate timelines. And I will say, one of the many criticisms that I saw with this book is specifically with the fact that there was not much like romance and like the timing. I tell you what, because I think she was trying to do 2 separate timelines and 2 stories at the same time, she wasn't able to like pace the romance at like certain points, honestly, to where it could be kind of a little bit more on the believable side. Not really believable side, but just like the romance felt really, really rushed. I didn't really get Alice and Scott's chemistry, honestly. And I tell you what, the reason why it's a 3.75 to begin with is because of Margaret's story. I went in for the romance, stayed for Margaret's story, essentially, you know? And it was, I tell you what, it was not a bad book, but I will say, if you do plan on reading this book, just know you're not going to really get like a romance, if that makes any sense. You're getting more literary fiction. And oh, wait, yeah, I was just thinking about this. I wrote this in a Goodreads review, basically saying that there is so much different types of love that are portrayed in this book as well too. And I liked that aspect. I liked how there wasn't just like the romantic love, but there was platonic love, there was parent love, there was child love, there was just so much different types of love that was being portrayed. So I think that was like something that like she was like trying to do, honestly, you know? But yeah, it wasn't bad, honestly. It wasn't her greatest in my opinion, honestly, but then again, book lovers will always be in my heart, to be honest with you. I love that book so much. But yeah, 3.75. Not a bad book whatsoever, honestly. All right, diving into the books that I read in June. The first book that I finished in June was Wild Dark Shore by Charlotte McConaghy. I can never remember how to pronounce her name properly, but it's Wild Dark Shore by Charlotte McConaghy. And I tell you what, guys, I was kind of in a little bit of a slump, obviously, you know, and I was basically, so I had this video ends when I find a 5-star, and it was originally going to start with me reading Wild Dark Shore because I hadn't found a 5-star, honestly, and I was just like, I need the universe to give me a 5-star. I need like a book to be a 5-star because, of course, I had 5 stars, but they were all rereads. Like, they were all rereads, and I was just like, like, it was just like I was needing something, honestly. As soon as I pick up this book, I get 5-star feelings. So this was my first 5-star of the year. I just love this book, honestly. There's so much that I want to talk about, but it can relate into spoiler territory that I'm not going to do that. But basically, I'm just going to kind of read like the synopsis, basically, of what this book is about. Because I feel like if you just go into it with like the blurb, you will be good, honestly. So I'm just going to read it out to you, basically. Dominic Salt and his 3 children are caretakers of Shearwater, a tiny island not far off Antarctica. Home to the world's largest seed bank, Shearwater was once full of researchers, but with the sea levels rising, the Salts are now its final inhabitants. Until during the worst storm the island has ever seen, a woman mysteriously washes ashore. Isolation has taken its toll on the Salts, but as they nurse the woman, Rowan, back to strength, it begins to feel like she might just be what they needed. Rowan, long accustomed to protecting herself, starts imagining a future where she could belong to someone again. But Rowan isn't telling the whole truth about why she set out for Shearwater. And when she discovers sabotaged radios and a freshly dug grave, she realizes Dominic is keeping his own secrets. As the storms on Shearwater gather force, they all must decide if they can trust one another enough to protect the precious seeds in their care before it's too late, and if they can finally put the tragedies of the past behind them to create something new together. That is just, I tell you what, went into that with just that, honestly. It exceeded my expectations immediately. And I also wanted to say, I listened to this on audiobook for the majority of it, you know, because I've read the first part and I was like, you know what, this is good. This is good. But I'm like, because it was taking place like around like Australia, New Zealand type of way, honestly. And I was like, I can't quite picture their accent. So I just put in the audiobook, honestly, just for fun, and I just binged it within a matter of days. It was so good. It was nothing like I read. You get the different kids' point of views as well too, honestly. You get Rowan's point of view, you get Dominic's point of view, and there's just so much that is not told in that blurb. I mean, it makes sense for like a mystery, like thrilling aspect and such like that. Is it? I was about to say it is very like thrillery, honestly, because one, it left me on the edge of my seat. Honestly, I listened to the majority of this while I was at like my day job and such, and I was just on the edge of my seat so much. And by the end, I cried. Like by the end, I cried at this book. Honestly, it was just so great. It was so powerful, so beautiful, and I learned so many lessons. Honestly, I just learned so many lessons. It was great. It was just great, to be honest with you. I loved reading this book. It was great, honestly. I loved it so much, honestly. I would recommend it, honestly, 100%. 100%. Like if you need a break for like romance or something like that, this is really, really good to read in the summertime as well too, because it's like you're by a sea. Granted, it's a little bit cold on the island, but still it's like, it's perfect, honestly. It's perfect for summer, to be honest with you. But yeah, I just loved it. 10 out of 10, five stars. I don't know if I can praise on anymore, honestly. All right, the next book that I read was Meeting Mille by Clare Ashton. I gave this book a 4 stars. I originally listened to it and then mostly read it also on my Kindle as well. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the story. Basically, it follows these 2 girls named Charlotte and Mille, and they had known each other they met each other in university and such. And it's obviously a sapphic romance, if y'all can't tell by the cover and such, but it's a sapphic romance. And I tell you what, I never heard anybody talking about this book, honestly. I never heard anything. I just found it on Goodreads one day, and I was like, you know what? That looks good to read. It was on Kindle Unlimited, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to try it out. Honestly. And I really, really like Claire's writing, honestly. And like I said, follows these 2 friends that they knew in university and such, but then something like goes queerly sideways. It literally says this on the back of the book, honestly. Like their worlds change instead when things go queerly sideways, and they haven't seen each other since Oxford, essentially. And then it follows them 10 years afterwards and such like that. They meet again at at this Oxford. I don't think it's a reunion, honestly, but they basically meet again at Oxford and such. And Mille kind of wants to become friends again, but Charlotte is just like, no. She's a little bit hesitant, but she's like also at the same time like, I miss my old friend, And then I'm pretty sure you guys can tell where this is going, honestly. But it's like a friends to lovers, and it's a slow burn. Like I'm talking slow burn type of shit, honestly. It's really slow burn, but it didn't really defer me from that. I really like a good slow burn, and the way that this was done was really, really good in my opinion. It was really, really good how the slow burn was done, to be honest with you. And also this cover is like, it's so gorgeous and it's so cute, honestly. It's so cute. I liked the romance bits, honestly. I liked what we got. I liked that we got like the development of their friendship and such like that. I think I said this in my only LGBTQ books for a week, honestly. But like the way that they fell in love with each other, I really liked the way that they fell in love with each other. They fell in love with each other's personalities. And then as they got older, they started noticing a little bit more sensual parts of each person, But yeah, I recommend it, honestly. It's a part of the series called An Oxford Romance and such as well. And I do plan on continuing on with that series because, it was just like so cute. It was legitimately so cute, to say the least. But yeah, 4 stars. I'd recommend it, honestly. It's a cute little sapphic romance and such, and it's something that I haven't really heard a lot of people talking about. So go and support her. Go and support her, honestly. I plan on continuing on with her as well, too. Okay, and then the next book that we have is another 5-star, and I shouldn't be too surprised, honestly, because I've already gotten 5 stars and 6-star reads from this author, but it is Radio Silence by Alice Oseman. Like I said, this is a 5-star book, honestly. I love this book. Well, just, again, look at the cover, honestly. Alice, of course, drew this because, they are a graphic designer and such, but, like, it's just, I tell you what, I went into this with, like, a little bit of stuff, but, like, not much. I just went in with the blurb and such like that, essentially. So I'll say what what the blurb is essentially, but it's Frances spends her time studying and making fan art for her favorite podcast, Universe City. Alade is known as a smart, quiet kid. No one realizes that he's the creator of Universe City and goes by the name Radio Silence online. But when Frances gets a message from Radio Silence asking if she'll collaborate with them, everything changes. And the more Frances and Alade show their true selves on their podcast, the more they begin to wonder which is the real performance. When secret identities are revealed, will Frances have the courage to show the world who she really is, or will she be met with radio silence? This is not like a graphic novel and such like that. This is like an actual like novel that Alice has written, and I believe it's her second one, honestly. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure it's her second like actual like young adult novel and such. And it's not a romance. I will say that. It is not a romance. Like Frances and Alade don't get together. They are just two queer people who happen to know each other and such. And if you guys don't know, Alice Oseman likes to talk a lot about the LGBTQ plus community and writes about the LGBTQ plus community, which I love reading about, honestly, as someone who's a part of the community myself. It's just so endearing to be able to see this. And the chapters are super, super short. I like binged this in like 3 days, honestly. I binged it. I could not and I did not want to put it down. I could not and did not want to put it down, essentially. It has stuck with me ever since I've read it, honestly. It lives in a part of me because there's so much that happens. And like, I tell you what, I think one of the things that I love about young adult, and I tell you what, I'm 21, so I'm not like a young adult anymore, honestly, but I'm getting closer to that time where like I could age out of young adult, but also I don't, because of the fact that they go so fast and you can understand it, honestly. And I think the reason why I like it so much is because of how fast you go and how much story you get within a short amount of time as well too. You keep it condensed and like that type of stuff. And it was just such a beautiful book to me, to be honest with you. I want to go back and reread this sooner rather than later, honestly. Like, it's become one of those books where like it could become a comfort read of mine. It legitimately could become a comfort read of mine. I loved it. Loved it so fucking much, honestly. And there's so many things that are talked about within this book that you don't even get from the blurb, which is why I'm not going to say much, honestly, with story-wise, because you learn as you go on and go on and go on within the story. And it's just so beautiful. It's so beautiful, honestly, to be able to kind of like see their growth and just like that type of stuff. It's just, I would 100% recommend it personally as well. But yeah, I would recommend it. I would 100% recommend it, to be honest with you. All right. And then the final book that I read in June was, of course, Heir of Fire by Sarah J. Maas. Now, I gave this book a 3.75, and because I have a little bit of something I need to tell you. So I think I said this in my June to April reading wrap up. I had finished Crown of Midnight in like February, I think. And then I think I talked about it as well too. But I took a little bit of a break when I knew that Sunrise and the Reaping was coming out. And for some reason, my brain thought that the worlds would be too similar. So I decided not to pick up this book again and such. So I picked it up in like May and such, like on May 1st. And then I didn't finish it until like maybe like June 16th, June 17th, I think, because I was stuck at the 20% mark for so long. I had so much going on. I just didn't feel like picking up this book that reluctantly I decided to pick up the audiobook because I was like, okay, I need to get done with this damn book. And then things started really getting picked up, honestly. And I don't know how I really feel about this series right now because I mean, it's okay, but I'm only really invested in one of the characters. I'm only truly invested in one of the characters, and it's not even Selena. I mean, I'm invested, but like, not really. Like, I'm kind of invested in Selena, but also like not. Oh God, this is hard to talk about. But I'm like Dorian and such like that. I am rooting for him. I love that man so much. I love him. I love him so much. I want him to be okay and get out of this unscathed, to say the least. I swear to God, if she does something, I'm going to be pissed, to say the least. But it was just, near the end, honestly, like once we got past the 30% mark, it was smooth sailing. But the reason why I got past the 35% mark is because of me picking up the audiobook and such. Picked up the audiobook of that, and it was not bad whatsoever. It was not bad to like pick up and read, essentially, but it just took so much time and so much effort. Honestly, we got introduced to a couple more characters, and right now I'm in the middle of the Assassin's Blade, and I tell you what, I kind of wish I wasn't in the middle of the Assassin's Blade. And the reason why I'm not talking about the story of Heir of Fire that much is because, one, spoilers, and this is a no spoiler type of reading wrap up. Essentially, there's no spoilers whatsoever, essentially. So, like I said, read Throne of Glass first, Crown of Midnight, now Heir of Fire. I wish I started out with the Assassin's Blade because it is so hard to be able to get through those novellas, essentially, because I kind of wish I could have gone into Heir of Fire and then into Queen of Shadows, because the way we ended off in this book, honestly, it was like crazy. Like the way we ended off in Heir of Fire was crazy. It was very crazy, honestly, but like I'm not like dying to kind of know what happens. I have a feeling it's going to be okay, to be honest with you, but like I'm not inclining to pick it up, honestly. Like it's not like I need to pick it up. Like I'm just like I need to, and I'm constantly thinking about it, honestly, because I'm not really. And that might be a controversial thing because I know that there are a lot of ride or dies for this series. And I haven't had much luck with Sarah in the past, to be honest with you. Her ACOTAR series is a love-hate relationship with me personally. So until I get near the end of the series, then I can really tell you guys my opinions, honestly. But like as of right now, 3.75 for Heir of Fire. Not a bad book series, but would I recommend this series so far? Maybe, but like, I don't know, honestly. I really don't know how I'm feeling about this, honestly, you know? Yeah, I hate to end it off that way, honestly, but those are genuinely all the thoughts I have of Heir of Fire, to be honest. Okay, so that is the end of all of the books that I have read. So I'm going to do this little mini segment of basically talking about the books that I am still reading or that books that I have started in June as well, too. And you'll probably see these in future wrap-ups as well. But the first book that I have that I'm still reading is The Ministry of Time by Kaliane Bradley. I've had this on my TBR for so long. It was on my June TBR. I obviously did not finish it in June, which sucks, to be honest with you. I've not finished it, but it is still a really, really interesting book. I first saw this when Haley Pham read it for the first time, and she loved it. Like, she loved it, honestly. And I can get the reason why, honestly. It is a really, really interesting book. It's very genre bending, which I personally love books that genre bend, honestly. Like, it's science fiction, there's romance in there, there's a little bit of historical fiction in there as well too. It's a really, really good book, honestly. So I'm like, I think I'm like 55% of the way through. Let me double check on how far I am, because I'm mostly reading it on my Kindle. Yes, so I'm 55% of the way through that book, honestly. So I could probably get that done if I like binge it within like a setting or something like that, or if I like spread it out like healthily over a couple of days as well too. But yeah, that is one of the books that I'm still reading. Obviously, one of the other books that is related to Heir of Fire that I'm still reading is The Assassin's Blade by Sarah J. Maas. I'm currently in the middle of the third novella, which is The Assassin and the Desert, and I'm on like chapter 9, so I have about like this much of the book left, essentially, and it looks daunting, honestly, but like I've been kind of taking a little bit of a break from The Assassin's Blade, mostly because I binged it within like, I binged like the first half in like such a short amount of time that I kind of got tired, honestly, and I was just like, I need to take a little bit of a break from this. I need to take a little bit of a break, honestly. So yeah, that's where I'm at currently. It looks like I'm about 50% of the way through. If you see where the bookmark is, it looks like I'm about at the 50% mark, but I'm not too sure. I'd have to look at my Goodreads or like my Fable, but like, yeah. And then the last book that I have that I am currently reading, technically this is a reread, but in honor of Pride Month, which obviously I did not finish this in Pride Month, but I started rereading one of my favorite books ever, which is Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. This was my first ever book that I read by them, and I love it. I loved it, honestly. Yeah, I'm currently doing annotations and tabbing. I'm like this far into the book. I have like that much left, honestly, you know. I have like on this side, I have like about that much left of the book. It is not a lot, honestly, which I didn't realize how much stuff happens in this book, but it's so good. I really am loving this book, to say the least, you know. I mean, it's even better the second time through, to be honest. And I originally rated it a 5-star, but maybe by the end it's going to be a 6-star, to be honest with you. More than likely by the end it's going to be a 6-star for me personally, because I love it so much. It is such a good book, honestly. Such a good book. It is such a good book. But those are the 3 books that I'm currently still in the middle of reading. And yeah, that is basically the end of this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know if you guys have been reading any of these books. Let me know if you felt the same way about Great Big Beautiful Life as me. Let me know if I was a little bit too harsh on James. And let me know if The Ministry of Time is just as great as everybody seems to say it is, honestly, you know? But like I said, if you liked this, please like the video. It really, really helps me out to like understand what you guys like and what you guys want to see. Again, comment down below all the things that I just said as well too. Why don't you leave me a little blue heart emoji? If you made it to the end, please leave a little blue heart emoji for me in the comments, just so that I know you stayed as well. Make sure you hit subscribe as well too. If you want to, turn on your post notifications so that you can get my videos. I'm hoping to get these videos out on every Saturday and Wednesday, but most of the time there's always going to be a video coming out on Saturday. And again, I hope you guys have an amazing day, week, month, and year. See you later, friends.